Hi guys, I hope you are enjoying the snow day and thank you for also still getting your work done. Today we are going to keep it short and sweet with a refresher on fossil fuels, which is something that everybody should have learned or is currently still talking about in 7th grade. So I'm going to share my screen. First off, this is the page that I gave you for instructions. We have a Pear Deck, so I'm going to go through the Pear Deck. We have notes, so make a copy of these notes on fossil fuels. So the reason why we're talking about fossil fuels today is because they are a very important part of the carbon cycle. So we have learned about the phosphorus cycle and the nitrogen cycle, and then next we're going to talk about the carbon cycle. But it's really hard to do that without talking about fossil fuels. So here we are on the first slide of the Pear Deck. This is a less than 3-minute video. Please watch it because reading the slides and writing the notes will only help you remember so much, but seeing a video and listening to it explained to you is going to help you a lot more. So if you haven't watched it, pause and watch this video. It's going to go over pretty much everything that we're about to go over. All right, so what are fossil fuels? We have a spot for this in your notes right here. It's a long one, but I want you to copy it all. Fossil fuels are a group of energy sources that were formed from ancient plants and organisms during the Carboniferous period, approximately 260 to 286 million years ago. MYA is million years ago. So Carboniferous period, notice how it has carbon right in the name, because this was a time on Earth, an ancient time on Earth, millions, hundreds of millions of years ago, where there was a lot of swamps and a lot of plants, and it was almost like all the land on Earth was like a tropical swamp environment. Because of this, when all of these life forms died, and some of them got buried under other types of rocks, then they were eventually able to become these 3 types of fuels. So fossil fuels is a group of 3 types of fuels: coal, oil, and natural gas. Coal is solid, oil is liquid, and natural gas is gas. So pause and answer this question right here. Why aren't fossil fuels renewable? So remember, renewable means that nature will replenish them about as quickly as we use them up. So for instance, trees are renewable because we can cut down trees and plant another one, and given maybe 7 to 10 years, we have another tree that we could use. So why aren't fossil fuels renewable? All right, so let's go through them one by one. Coal. What do we use coal for? Mostly generating electricity. So we use it in coal power plants. We burn it and it spins a turbine and we get electricity generated. Also, a big chunk of our coal goes to the process of making steel, which of course is the metal that we use for building everything, and then other types of industry. So we basically use it in power plants and factories. How did coal form? So in 3 simple steps, coal started off as ancient plants in swampy areas. When those plants died and dropped to the bottom of the swamp, eventually some of those areas were buried under other layers of rock. Since they were buried, they were under a lot of pressure, and heat goes along with being buried, and all of that plus time eventually transformed it into what is now coal. So tell me something that you rely on coal for. Why is coal important to your life? All right, the next one is oil, which is also called petroleum. So this list of uses could be a lot longer. Mainly, we use it for vehicle fuel. So that means gasoline, diesel, jet fuel. That comes from oil. Also, this is the natural resource that gives us plastics. We use it in cosmetics. The most obvious example of that is petroleum jelly, which is Vaseline. Ink, pen ink is oil-based. Asphalt, so like what they pave parking lots and playgrounds with, and the list goes on and on. So how did petroleum or oil form? Well, this one's a little bit different. Instead of starting off in swamps, so like plants in just a wet environment, this is completely underwater. So we're talking about ancient aquatic organisms, um, things like plankton, little fish, clams, snails, any kind of thing that lives in a shallow area underwater. So when these things died and fell to the bottom of the sea, they were eventually buried under rock, layers and layers of rock, and the process is the same as coal after that. Heat, pressure, and time made it into what it is today. So type in the box here, what is something that you rely on oil for? So finally, natural gas. Natural gas is the gas form, and it is primarily used for heating. It's really easy to burn, and then we can transform that heat. We can burn it and just use it in our homes, our buildings, businesses. We also use it for cooking. So this is what you might have at home in your stovetop. You might have a real flame, and that's natural gas being burned for cooking. It is actually more commonly used now in power plants instead of coal. Also, it can be used to form plastics just like oil. So how does natural gas form? Well, it's pretty much the same process as oil. It just is more heat and more time, making it break down even more into a gas form. So what is something that you rely on natural gas for? How is natural gas important to your life? All right, and the last slide here this is the real key slide for what we're going to learn about next class. So we're getting ready to learn about the carbon cycle. So what do fossil fuels have to do with that? Well, fossil fuels contain large amounts of the element carbon. Right here is this molecule, and the kind of zigzag black line down the middle, those are all the carbons that really form like the spine of the molecule for coal, oil, and natural gas. So they're mainly carbon. That means that when we burn them to do all the things we do with them, they release a gas called carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So we've got fossil fuels is this little line down here. If we use them in a car or a factory, they're going to be burned, and out comes carbon dioxide. So we are going to come back to this idea next class. So make sure you answer this question in the Pear Deck. What do fossil fuels have to do with the carbon cycle? And that about takes care of our lesson for today. If you did not write down your notes, please do that, because like I said, just reading the slides, just listening to this video will only help so much. Write it down as well, because that will help commit it to memory. When you're finished with your notes, here's what I'd like you to do. Click on the share button. Make sure that you change the restricted down here to the option that says share with MSD of Washington Township. Otherwise, I can't see it. Then you can copy the link, go back over to Canvas. I don't think I'm in student view. Here I am. Then all you gotta do is start your assignment. No, it's not gonna do it, huh? Okay. And then just make sure you paste the correct URL into the box right here and submit the assignment. This is going to help me take attendance along with the Pear Deck. All right, and you're done. Bye, guys.